You have 3 weapons seized in Bramley over a year ago that have now been linked to 29 other investigations across the country. That's information the SAPS should have had within a week of the seizure in Bramley. They've had to wait for almost, for more than a year to get that information. It's been a lot of wasted investigation time that could have been accelerated if they got that information instantly.
10 mistakes on a ballistic report. This is so shocking, especially after the national head of ballistics, Mr. or Brigadier MKHABELA, appeared before the Madlanga Commission to explain to us what might have been the reason why there was a lot of mistakes in those ballistic reports. His word, even errors that have taken place or that have happened, because we are dealing with a high-profile case, which is the unaliving of Aaron Swartz. And in this video, I wanted us to understand why this testimony was very important, especially in light of the unaliving of Aaron Swartz and considering what Witness B has said. So Witness B came and told us about the problems and the possible tempering of the ballistic reports after the unaliving of Aaron Swartz. So as you guys can know, or if you've been watching my video, but if you have not, there's 2 scenes when it comes to the unaliving of Aaron Swartz, which is the Vereeniging scene and the Bramley scene. The Bramley scene is where the suspects were apprehended. The Vereeniging scene is where Aaron Swartz lost his life. So Witness B said that whenever they went and asked for the reports in order for them to start continuing with the prosecutions, as well as ensuring that the ballistics as well as the firearm are not connected to any other unaliving, so that if they are, they can charge whoever is the accused in that particular matter. And it's so shocking that more than, they said, if I'm not mistaken, more than 60-something or 20-something cases are related to this firearm and the cartridges that they've analyzed. And today the witness was speaking or adding on to what Witness B said, because Witness B, the most important person that she was crying about was Captain Makgotle. That Captain Makgotle kept on delaying the process, number one, and making a lot of excuses, which made them to see that high chances there's a lot of tempering. From him accusing them of kidnapping, to him being drunk sometimes whenever they go to him being nonchalant whenever they want him to account as to the ballistic report, to them giving them tempered ballistic reports now and again, that it even made them to get to a situation where they wanted a second opinion, and they went to Umzimtoti, because the Silverton branch was starting to not participate with them, was starting to act shady when it comes to this report. So having a second opinion to them was very important, and that is when they were able to get things like serial number.
It only came under my attention during the testimony in this commission that the analyst in the other laboratory was able to retrieve the number. So I was not privy to that information until I hear it during the testimony, Commissioners.
The other laboratory, would that be Manzimtoti?
That is correct, Commissioners.
And are you, outside of the processes of the Commission, are you now aware that in fact the serial number has been recovered?
Based on the testimony, I am now aware that the other analyst was able to retrieve the serial number, Commissioners.
So today, Brigadier MKHABELA was trying to explain to us what is the system that they use for them to have or generate these ballistic reports. And he actually alluded to 2 different methods. They're using the IBIS method, and they're also using the forensic science labs, which is the normal method, the old method.
In the past, we had a one-stop for all, where the ballistic analyst will analyze a case. After analysis, he or she will go to the IBIS station to acquire the specimen that need to be acquired on IBIS. During that process, we started experiencing problems, because we had a situation where the analysts were saying, we are adding extra work, which in terms of their KPA, key performance area, is not there, while you have a subsection called IBIS, which is responsible for all IBIS responsibilities. So because of that reluctance from the analyst, we end up having problems with the quality of images, which affect the quality of hits that you generate. Then management had to take a tough decision that despite the fact that IBIS is understaffed, but we'll have to relieve the analyst of these responsibilities, and it must remain the sole responsibilities of IBIS. And from there on, we started to even go as far as generating a lab number for IBIS, so that we can be able to account for the work that comes to IBIS. Once the case has been analyzed and completed at ballistics, it has to go through the process of registration, where an IBIS lab number is assigned or to that particular case, until it is assigned to an analyst and acquired on IBIS.
This old method, really, it's just about ballistic marks. They look at ballistic marks and the different categories of characterization. They look at ammunition, firearms, series numbers of firearms to establish owner, crime scene, and tool marks. Those are some of the things that they use whenever they look at the ballistic marks. And sometimes they use a firearm to shoot at the tank with water to see that cartridge, which firearm does that cartridge belong in. And then bullets on crime scene, autopsy to compare, and from the marks, then positive findings. So they check everything, and whether there is a defect or not, check samples and check if all components are present in a cartridge to see if it's a live ammunition or what. And he spoke about some system that is called the recitations of obliterate alphanumeric figure on metals applied when serial number is erased. So it's mostly used in that. If you guys remember, even with the Ketmatala situation, that whenever they arrived in Ketmatala, they found 4 firearms, and they found that the serial number does not correspond with the permit, and they even thought that these permits were issued before these firearms were even bought. Sometimes people, that's what they do, they tamper with the serial number, and with this forensic system, they can be able to see the serial number. Then they have a different system. The system that they use, they started using it from 1997, is the IBIS system. So the IBIS system is more of an automotive system. And it mostly captures it compares and captures digital images of bullets and cartridges cases to link firearms used in different cases. So this is mostly a Canadian system. And what they do then with this, they then take it, be able to find whether this cartridge or firearm is linked to who or which person, and whether there is other crimes that are linked to that particular cartridge number, whatever the case may be, as well as the firearm.
Thanks, Commissioner. I'll start with the second stage, the phase 2, where the intervention of human beings is required to view. You need integrity, because I can run through the system and say I've viewed them and mark them, viewed. So you need integrity there. If the person does and mark them, viewed. From the management point of view, because we check those things, we'll start to check. I mean, we are no longer generating possible hits. What could be the problem? Then we'll go there. Fortunately, the system has got checks and balances. For example, if I've marked something as viewed today, because it's a continuous comparison, it will come back again even if I marked it. So it's not all lost. But human beings, that's why you need someone with integrity. That's why we don't give them too much work, because I can go there and mark the whole 28,000 viewed, and without any possible hits. No one will know. With the second one, the last phase, that one goes back, it's similar to ballistics now, because now you have the specimens, physical specimens that you must now take to the comparison microscope and compare them. There, after you have completed your results, someone must come and verify your findings. So there's checks and balances in that regard.
So all this system is very important because it assists with the findings in the Armin Swartz case. So it assisted with ensuring that, okay, number one, what other cases are linked, right, to this case?
And so, if the system as itself is currently not functioning in a way that can generate real-time results, then you need one of two solutions. Either you need to provide dedicated ABIS and ballistics access and capacity to the task teams or investigation teams dealing with those sorts of crimes, like was the case in the PKTT, where they had dedicated ballistics capacity assigned to them. Or you need to have a system that will fast-track their requests within your existing system, because it's those kinds of investigations in respect of which instant ballistics results are so important. Do you have a comment on that?
Yes, I have a comment, Commissioners. I would say we need to capacitate so that you can be able to deal with the requests as they come, not necessarily to deploy your resources to work with the task teams, because at the end of the day, you need to maintain the independence of your analyst so that they don't become contaminated by working with the investigators and discussing the cases with the investigators. So if the lab is capacitated enough, it will be able to provide the much needed assistance to whoever organized unit, task team, whatever. You will be able to provide that services, but not necessarily to be part of that establishment. That is my take on that one, Commissioners.
And one of the alarming things that we found there, first thing that they found there was that there was typing errors.
I went through this statement. There's only two scenarios that I think happened here. Analysts are doing their own typing. In the past, we used to have typists, but they resigned, and we don't have typists, so analysts started to do their own typing. So as they do their own typing, I think what happened is that if the analyst starts the case on the 26th of October and finish the case on the 27th of October, they happen to have that habit that they also type a date for the commission of oath up front. So if you check on 8.8, the date which is there was typed when the report was compiled on the 24th of May. Now, what happened now here, after a year or two, you are told that page 3 of 8 has got a typo error. Please correct the mistake. The analyst will go and look for the report on their typing folder and correct the mistake accordingly. But what happened is that they may not go to the last page to change that date. And the two scenarios that either he may only press print current page and print only the page where he has made the correction, and go to the person who initially commissioned the statement and ask them to initial that page, and insert that page which correction in the report. Or he may print the entire page, the entire report, without changing the last date on the last page, and look for the member who commissioned on their behalf or any other member, and give them, because the date is there, the person who commissioned will sign. I'm not saying it is right, but that is what I think could have happened in this instance.
So those typing errors are referred to about cartridges. This person or this Mahotle person or Captain Mahotle, together with their partner, which was Mashe. I think it's Warrant Officer Mashe. Warrant Officer Mashe and Mahotle, who were the ones that were in charge of the ballistic report in Gauteng. So let me just run through, before we can get to the mistakes, let me just run through the team that was working on this ballistic. Here in Gauteng, it was Mahotle as well as Warrant Officer Sihlangu. So those were the two main officers that were working on the cases here in Gauteng, both the IPIS report as well as the forensic report. The person that was reviewing their work was Captain Mkhatshwa, of which Captain Mkhatshwa is coming tomorrow to say his side of the story. And then now after, because as I've said, they failed, so the matter had to be taken to KZN in Umzumdoti for further findings, or for them to have a better examination of this whole thing, hoping for different results. So the person that was in charge there of the forensic report was Warrant Officer Kada, and the person that was in charge of the IPIS report was Warrant Officer Mkhize and Warrant Officer Mzimela. So those people are the people that are involved and are the ones that were in charge of these ballistic reports. So the first mistake that they realized was that there were typing errors, right? The typing errors was with regards to the bullets as well as the cartridges. One moment they were saying bullets, the next moment they were using the word cartridges. Now I'm talking about the Silverton report, the one that has Matloge in it. And then the second thing that they realized was that there was wrong dates. And the dates were very important for them to not be wrong. And that especially it's with regards to the issue of when did they start working on the matter as IBIS. So they had to fast track the process because they wanted the results very quickly. So what Brigadier MKHABELA said is that whenever the matter is, they quickly want the matter because they have a big backlog. They have a lot of cases that they can't deal with because they're short-staffed. I think he said that they need plus minus 60 staff members, if I'm not mistaken.
So the pool is there because of the number of interested people that are applying for those posts. So the pool is always there. The only thing is to have resources to recruit as much as you need. We don't have a problem with the pool, Commissioner. And explain why is there delay in obtaining a ballistic report. And I, of course, you say my case has been remanded for the last time. And now you must now jump the queue. You must jump those cases that were registered in 2022 and 2023 and address this recent case. If you don't do that, the court will issue a warrant of your arrest because they need you to go and explain why the case is old. And when I remark on this one, Commissioners, there's an incident where the former commander of ballistics was arrested on his last day of service, on his birthday. He was handcuffed in our presence because of contempt of court. He could not attend the section 342A inquiry in Steelfontein in the Northwest. They put him at the back of the car, handcuffed to Steelfontein on a Friday afternoon when his friends had booked him a surprise present at somewhere in Delstrom to go and celebrate. That has to be postponed. We had to see to it that he is released on that Friday afternoon. And that is what we're facing on a day-to-day basis. Instead of me preparing the cases, I must travel to court and explain why the case is delayed. Out of maybe 70% of cases that we complete per month, more than 70% of them are urgent requests from court.
They have 8,000 cases that are still not dealt with. And they have scarcity of people. They can't hire because of some red tapes. For example, they say that the advertisement is vague, exclusion of certain people, and the process, they've been challenging the process. So they're short-staffed. And I think even the training does not require that much. So that one is a problem. And they have 29,000 firearms, and they have only 42 analysts. And they need 66 analysts. And in other provinces, they have even way less than that. So they are very short-staffed. Hence, they have some of the problems that they have in terms of the backlog and them failing. So sometimes they have to speed up the process, meaning they have to make sure that some of the cases, they jump the queue so that they can deal with them quicker because of the exigency of that matter. And Armand Swartz was one of those cases that they had to deal with very quickly. So when that process happens, you don't go through the wait of 3 months, because normally you wait 3 months for you to get your report. But I'm on sorts there to quicken the process. But upon really checking the thorough checking of the SC, of which, shout out to the SC of Madlanga, you realize that actually that thing of saying that they jumped the queue, it does not exist, because either way, the matter of Arno Swartz was dealt with by IBs 3 months later. So that in and of itself is one of the proof that shows that these people didn't even know what they're doing. Actually, the head of ballistics, I feel like, I don't know, he's covering up or what's going on. I just feel like he doesn't know what he's doing. And this system is really good because it works simultaneously. It shows results simultaneously. And mostly after that process is done of you checking from the microscope, you can compile a report, and that report is called the Section 121 report, and then it goes through review. After review, then it can go to the IO, which is the investigating officer, then case management. So it's a very effective process that is supposed to assist them to quicken the process of getting those reports. So now, with the situation, they couldn't get things done properly. They took their precious time for them to get to the resolution, or for them to start the ballistic process of the Arno Swartz case. The second problem is that they had errors when it comes to the case number.
I will explain this according to our procedure, our processes, not taking away what the council has indicated. When you read what that paragraph says, it says, on the 24th of May 2024, during the performance of my official duties, I received an intact sealed evidence bag with the following number, marked inter alia. In our environment, that inter alia, analysts are taught that they must write it as it is. If the investigating officer has written a wrong case number, you document it as you see it, inter alia, as you see it on the package. So I see here the case number is wrong, but without having the advantage to see the seal bag and see what was it written originally, I cannot comment whether the member did that with the purpose. But I'm just saying that if it is marked wrongly, you marked it, because we have come across the same argument in court where the defense will say the bag that you received was marked this inter alia, and you, knowing the correct case number, you write it according to how you know the correct case number. They take issues with you as well, because they say you have now tempered the chain of custody. That is not how you received it marked. You received it marked with this case number, but you wrote the correct case number. So it will be interesting to see in the original seal bag how was it written.
So Makgotle wrote a wrong case number when it comes to the weapons, meaning that the accused were now not linked to the evidence, meaning that the counsel of the accused can easily say, but my clients didn't do this because this is wrong case number and error that does not link back to my client.
What you see is, he states the following. On 24 May 2024, during the performance of my official duties, I received an intact sealed evidence bag with a number, and he gives a number, marked inter alia, Bramley case 140/04/2024. Now that number, that case file number, is the wrong number. The correct number is 149. And I want to put a scenario to you. I may be wrong, but I want to put this scenario to you. The way that criminal prosecutions ordinarily proceed is, in advance of the trial, the prosecutor draws up a list of admissions that it wants the defense to make. It says, I want you to admit A, B, C, and D. And in a case like this, on that list of admissions would be the correctness of the ballistics report of Captain Makgotle. If the defense makes that admission, no one is called to court to testify in relation to ballistics. And the state closes its case, relying only on the ballistics report of Captain Makgotle, which is not disputed. Now, it is certainly arguable that if the defense has done its work closely and has spotted this mistake, they will say when the state has closed its case, or when they argue at the end, that none of the weapons seized can be linked to our clients, to the accused, because the evidence bag that the report speaks to is an evidence bag marked Bramley case 140/04/2024, and our accused case is Bramley case 149/04/2024. So you haven't shown a chain of custody from the scene to the ballistics examinations.
The date of signatures, instead of writing October, they wrote May. That in and of itself is one of the problems that were picked from that report. Warrant Officer Marsha commissioned that affidavit or that report And she's not supposed to commission the report because she works in the case, of which that's what happens even in law practice. You cannot be a commissioner as an attorney and sign your own papers. You need to give your papers to another attorney. Can't sign your own papers. So Warrant Officer Masha signing those papers, they were not supposed to sign the papers because they were working on the case. They were the ones who went with Captain Mahotli to go to the scene and confiscate all the evidence that they needed for purposes of ballistic report.
Commissioners, now that the evidence leader is mentioning it, I fully agree that it's something that the section has to look at in order to safeguard our processes. Because certainly, one may argue that there might be some conflict of interest. The other member already has cited the case. So it's something that we'll have to look into it and try to put some measures to prevent it. Commissioners, I accept that, commissioners.
So she had no right to commission those documents. Also, when you look at the non-performance, they found that there's errors, and they even replaced a page. Instead of having a supplementary affidavit fixing whatever defect, they decided to replace the documents. And that made them to even have 2 supplementary papers on the actual report. Of which that is a problem, guys. You can't do that. You can't just forge a paper and just hoid the paper inside as if there's no problem. You are disturbing the whole sequence of the report.
One is the description of the non-conformance. Case examination, Captain Mahotli FSL, completed, Lieutenant Colonel Monakali affidavit. Captain Mahotli examined case file with lab number 193.051 of 2024 and lab 193.045 of 2024. Paragraph 3.4, the examiner states that 2 fired bullets core were received. In paragraph 10.2, the same bullets mentioned in paragraph 3.4 as the cartridge cases. Paragraph 4.13, the examiner states that 1 cartridge case was received. In paragraph 6, the same cartridge case examiner mentioned it as a cartridge. Then they referred to the form that he completed. On ICDMS, the affidavit was scanned and confirmed date 2024-06-2026, and the corrections were made after the scanning, and supplementary affidavit was not scanned. They gave a reference number. And then the initial assessment. The error as mentioned above noted. The supplementary affidavit was created and corrected the errors and submitted for scan. So, in short, Commissioner...
Yes, I wanted to say in your own language, can you please explain this? I'm completely lost.
The person who was investigating this non-conformance was just stating the errors as they saw them on the typing those paragraph that we're referring to, where there was an allegation that the 15 cartridge cases were not compared with the AK. So they were mainly, at the time when the complaint came, they concentrated on those typing errors, commissioners.
And also from Kadra's testimony, it was discovered that it's not only 2 reports. There's actually 3 reports that are there.
The only change that we could pick up in that affidavit was a correction of paragraph 4. So that the affidavit in the case file today, in paragraph 4, no longer refers to Bramley case 140 of 4 of 24, but now refers to Bramley case 149 of 4 of 2024. Do you know anything about this third affidavit?
Commissioner, no, I don't have sight of that. I'll have to investigate and find out.
And what's so shocking is that Kabera does not even know that there's actually 3 reports, but Mkhatshwa knows that there's actually 3 reports. So the way he was out of touch with everything, it's some of the things that are really worrying about the stance that Mkhatshwa took and him not really participating. These errors are really significant because there's no way that you can be at the scene of a crime, find someone with a weapon and an empty cartridge case. You can't find an empty cartridge case and a firearm and say that that person is linked to the certain crime, and at the same time you don't link that same cartridge to that particular crime. That does not make sense, and that's what essentially this report was saying.
He said the bullets mentioned in 3.3, and if we go back to 3.3, the bullets mentioned in 3.3 are AK-47 bullets retrieved from the scene of the murder. You'll see that at page 22. They're in the FIREARMS file, and it's paragraph 3.3. So he positively confirms that the AK-47 bullets at the scene of the murder are fired from the AK-47 that the suspects are caught with. That seems to me the single most important finding in relation to the AK-47 in terms of linking the suspects to the murder in FIREARMS, and that he confirms. But he goes further. He mentions in 10.3 the cartridge cases mentioned in 3.1. That's the Parabellum, the 9mm cartridge cases found at the scene in FIREARMS. And 4.11, that we see at 23. That's one fired cartridge case found in Bramley. So both cartridge cases found both at the murder scene in FIREARMS and at the arrest in Bramley are fired from the firearm mentioned in 4.7, which I think is the Taurus firearm, which was seized from the suspects. Again, if you're looking to sabotage the prosecution or the investigation, it's strange to tie the suspects to cartridge cases found on the scene of the murder and a cartridge case found in their possession at the time, because that would definitely link them to the murder scene. Then, similarly, 10.4, the bullets mentioned in 3.2. These are 4 9mm caliber bullets found on this murder scene at Vereeniging. He confirms that they are fired from the firearm in 4.7, the Taurus firearm. So he has tied the suspects to the murder scene with his conclusions in respect of the Taurus and the AK-47. What he hasn't done is tied the gun in the possession of which the suspects were found to cartridge cases that were also found in their possession at the time. It seems to me that of all of the findings that one would need to convict these people, the one that is of least value is to show that when you arrest them and they're carrying empty cartridge cases and a rifle, the empty cartridge cases were fired from the rifle. You know that they had both the empty cartridge cases and the rifle at the same time. That seems to me the least important of all of the conclusions, and that's the one that he got wrong. So it does seem to me that viewed in isolation, this error certainly doesn't of its own point to a deliberate attempt at sabotage. But there are other mistakes that may make the situation different.
As compared to the cartridge, I'm not undermining the cartridge cases, but the bullet in most cases is removed from the deceased. So if you can be able to link the firearm to the bullet which was removed from the deceased, you have undoubtedly placed the firearm on the scene. And under these circumstances, this is what the member has done. And I'm sure if he did that with a mind to sabotage, his brains needs to be examined. But there's something wrong with him.
And the national head of ballistics being out of touch with everything, with besides him being short-staffed, allowing Captain Makgotle to tamper with the ballistic report and saying it's just an error. That in and of itself is a problem that made a lot of us to raise our brows and start asking ourselves, did he get the brown envelope? Why is his testimony saying it's an error instead of saying it the way it is, which is just that they are covering up something? Because clearly it seems like these people were actually covering up something. I don't know what you guys think. Please comment your thoughts. I know this was a very challenging testimony for me because I have no knowledge about firearms and all of that. I had to listen to the testimony while researching, and probably there's certain things that I forgot. And if you feel like I have forgotten really important components, please comment them in the comment section down below. Just know I've tried my best to explain to someone who did not understand at all what was going on. Just try to break it down to you as to what actually the evidence was about and what are some of the mistakes that they found which are not immaterial, which are very material, and that can make the work of the prosecutor very hard now when they have to face the court, when they have to face judges, which is why people end up not being prosecuted, because such things as ballistic reports which are piling in their museums, in their offices without being attended is a problem.
Succession of, let's say, curious elements. A statement that has changed several times, sometimes without apparent explanation. I want to put it to you that in order to safeguard the Bramley and Vereeniging prosecutions, this ballistics examination should be redone from the start by a different ballistics examiner who's had nothing to do with it.
I don't know. Please comment your thoughts. I'll see you guys on my next upload. Bye.